So here are shots that tennis coaches need, but players don't. But here's the thing. Tennis players will not need these shots in tennis matches or in tennis tournaments or anything competitively. But I think players will need these shots because at some point, if you're an adequate tennis player, at some point you will be coaching or teaching someone that you know, maybe a friend, a significant other, maybe son, daughter, brother, sister. Who knows? I think every tennis player will at some point be in a position to teach or coach a player, regardless if they take up a coaching in general. So these are shots that tennis coaches do need. And I learned this pretty much through coaching. I didn't learn this through playing. I learned it through coaching. And you will need this as a coach, but I think this applies to tennis players as well. Tennis players at some point will need these shots in order to teach someone, a friend or a significant other, this game that we all love, tennis. And the first shot that you will need as a tennis coach is the racquet feed. And the racquet feed is basically a dead ball feed. Basically, you're just tossing it and hitting a very soft ball with almost no spin at all, directed toward the student's contact point or ideal contact point. Here I'm with Nishida, and I am just, I have this continental grip already, right? So you got to be in this continental grip if you feed. You could be in the Eastern forehand grip as well, but most preferably continental, so that you could really make sure that ball has absolutely no topspin whatsoever. And that's important. You cannot put any kind of topspin on that ball, or else it's going to be tough for beginning and many intermediate students when they try to hit a ball. Nishida here is actually a very good tennis player, advanced tennis player, can play tournaments. But I was just trying to make her run a little bit, but still make her hit a doable ball, a ball that she can get to. It's somewhat ideal, and that she could rip it cross court. So here I am with that continental grip. I'm just tossing it and very lightly tapping it up, right? Barely a follow through here. This is pretty much the end of my follow through. I don't really go past that. I float it up a little bit so that Nishida can run a little bit and just try to hit it cross court there. And so that's what I was just aiming for on that particular feed, something with absolutely no spin. And you need to have a continental grip. I know it's really weird at first to hit a forehand or a feed in that nature, but you have to have it so that it doesn't travel very fast or have any topspin whatsoever. So that is the first shot that you will need as a coach, is that racquet feed. The second shot that you'll need is pretty much the same thing, but only when you're rallying with a student. And that is a continental forehand or Eastern forehand. Basically, I'm pretty much in this between a continental and Eastern forehand grip here, simply because sometimes I may need a little topspin to get it over the net back to my student here. And so here, just check out my technique on this. Very short backswing and a very short follow through as well. It's cut abruptly short, and I am still trying to get a little topspin on that ball, but the key is to make it very, very steady. It shouldn't be too fast. It shouldn't be too slow as well, where there's slice on it. You don't want any slice on it. You don't want that ball to die on the court. You want it to get there, get to that ideal contact point for your student, and then so that my student here can rip it whenever he wants. And he did very well on this one, getting that ball up the line. So a continental forehand grip or Eastern forehand grip that is very slow, very steady, and very short on the backswing and on the follow through as well. And the third shot that you'll need is a one-handed backhand. And for us two-handed backhand players, it might be tough, but I had to develop a one-handed backhand for my students here. And so here's me doing a one-handed backhand where I just kind of tapped it up, right? So in a way that, is that a slice? I don't know. It is a kind of a low to high motion, right? It's going from low to high up there, right? But I'm just tapping it up, right? Floating it up there so that my student here has a chance to rip it. And he does this two-handed backhand here. And let's see my one-handed backhand again. Again, I'm just laying my racket flat, and it kind of looks like it's going to be a slice, but then I just kind of almost lob it up, right? It's kind of like a very short, shallow lob. And it just happens to be slow and short, something that you won't do in a tennis match, right? If you do this in a tennis match, you're going to get hammered. But with a beginning level or intermediate level student, it is a perfect ball for them to rally against. And as a coach, I don't really like to do too many hand feeds or racket feeds. Yeah, that needs to happen at first, but at some point, students need to learn how to rally. And so you just got to get at it, but you can't hit 60-mile-per-hour backhands to them, right? So you got to develop this one-handed backhand so that your students can learn how to rally and be successful, right? So, and he's able to rally here against me, and that's pretty good. That's how you develop a tennis player. The next shot that you'll need to do is some swinging volleys or some volleys on the baseline, basically baseline volleys, right? So here's me, just you see this ball floating up, right? And I want to maintain the rally, right? Just like in the last, what I was doing on the one-handed backhand with Noah there, I want to continue the rally as best as possible. And so if you really want the rally to continue, you got to hit all these out balls by just volleying them back. And so here's an out ball that is me just volleying it back. And again, it's kind of like a racket feed or a continental forehand again, right? Because I'm in this continental grip, right? I'm in this continental or maybe slightly eastern. I just want that ball to get back over the net so that my student can rally it back, right? We want to continue the rallies. And, we don't want to end the rally too much on one or two shots, or every time the ball is out, then we end the rally. That's not really a good way to coach, not a good way to just, keep at it, right? You want to continue the rally, and here again, my student hits the ball out, and I'm just trying to get the ball back in. And that one was an actual topspin forehand here. This student of mine here is more advanced player, so he could handle that shot. And so that's what you need when you're rallying with students in beginner, intermediate level students. You need to have that baseline volley. And the last shot that a tennis coach will need is the Eastern backhand forehand. And I talked about this a while ago already. Basically a squash shot, a true squash shot. So I was talking to this player who actually played squash. I don't have any experience in squash, and he told me this is a true squash shot. And so here's Andrew here about to hit this forehand. Not exactly a squash shot. I don't know if he's in that particular grip, but at this point, you need to be in this Eastern backhand grip, basically on bevel 1 with your index knuckle. And I don't have any footage of me coaching doing that, because usually when you do this, you're off court, you're off wide, and you're just trying to get the ball back, and the ball is behind you. And so that is why I don't have that type of footage. But here, right, it's kind of similar, right? So Andrew's trying to hit this ball that's pretty much past him, right? And you need to turn your grip all the way to an Eastern backhand grip, bevel 1, so that you could retrieve the ball and just get it back in play. And this is what Andrew did here, just getting it back in play. And that's what you really need to do when you're rallying with students, with beginning, intermediate players, finding a way to get it back in play. Again, I didn't really learn all this in coaching school. I didn't learn this. I didn't go and practice all these shots. These shots were developed over time while I was coaching. So, my first year in coaching, I probably didn't have any of these shots. I didn't have the Racquet Feed. I didn't have any of this. But you just try to learn and do the best that you can, and you eventually you get better and better. And say you don't feed very well. Say you do a Racquet Feed, you do something and it's not performed very well. Don't fault yourself for it, that, oh, you're a bad coach, you're a bad feeder or whatever. You just learn, and your student will have to learn how to hit these tough balls anyway, right? Students have to learn how to hit every ball that they can, whether it be a slow ball, fast ball, or any type of ball. They have to learn all these type of spins, and so they need to learn. They need to learn. You need to learn. You're both learning together. So over time, you will develop these shots, and it's just all about getting them to rally, right? So look for these shots. These are tennis coaching shots, not necessarily shots for the tennis player, but you tennis players, at some point, you will become tennis coaches as well with your family members or your significant others, whether you like it or not. At some point, you'll be in a position to teach as well. So try to learn these tennis coaching shots. If you enjoyed this video, kindly do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.